I've noticed in friends and family, in our household, with my clients, with people in my classes, there is a lot of uncertainty out there. So many conversations with people echoing this uncertainty, this, I don't want to say it's fear. I don't know. I think fear can play a role, but I think it's just not knowing, the unknowing of it all, right? The fogginess.
Your journey to the divine is an intimate exploration of self, where you are both the seeker and the source of enlightenment. I, Jessica Paschke, invite you to break free from the ordinary, to reforge your spiritual path with courage, curiosity, and audacity. Unleash the power of your spiritual connection, stepping into a purpose-driven life free of have-tos and shoulds. Join me on this profound exploration of rediscovery, where you'll not only redefine your own spiritual practice, but also inspire a collective awakening. Welcome to Reclaiming Our Spirit.
Welcome back to Reclaiming Our Spirit podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It's December. Where did the year go? I want to know where the year went because it was just January of 2024 and now we're in December of 2024 and we're winding up the year. And I think that the month of December really lends itself to reflection and pondering. In many places in the Northern Hemisphere, starts to cool off. Not all places, but in many places. It starts to cool off and we find ourselves spending more time indoors. I know living in Massachusetts now, I'm grabbing a hot cup of tea and a sweater much more often than I did when I was living in North Carolina. And I think that pondering and introspection and just wondering, getting curious about things, December really lends itself to that. And maybe it's the energy of the winter solstice coming up. Maybe it's because it's cold and cloudy in a lot of places. I don't know. But it really just lends itself to just wondering, right? To just reflecting. And today, a moment of joy occurred. It was dark. It's always dark. It was so dark. I feel like it's always dark. It's not as dark as when I lived in Alaska, but still it's really dark. And I had cracked the window. It had gotten stuffy and in the middle of the night at some point. So I cracked the window to get some fresh air in. I woke up like at 5 a.m. and it just smelled like winter and ocean air. It was such a delicious smell. I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in a place where there was very much winter, very much all the time, it felt like. And I've never been a fan of the cold, but the smell of winter, that crisp smell, and in Minnesota, it was always accompanied by snow. There's something to that. It's kind of like a flashback, right? Allows you to travel back. And I remember opening my eyes at 5 a.m. thinking, oh, it smells like Minnesota at night. And this visual of like the light reflecting off the snow and the trees are bare and it's just really crisp. And so I laid there for a little while and didn't connect anything to it. And then I hear a squeal from my child and I thought something was wrong. Apparently she had gotten up early and realized that it had snowed overnight. Not a lot of snow, just a little snow. And it was still snowing. So she was thrilled. She was beyond thrilled. She is a snow baby. And so it made much more sense why it smelled like Minnesota outside. But it was so fun to see her joy and to see her just sprint outside in not enough clothing or the right shoes to take in and the snow falling from the sky. And it snowed for a little while this morning, big fat flakes. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. And it just brought me that moment of joy, something so simple, yet so exciting. And it brought back memories of childhood for me playing in the snow. And I loved seeing her excitement. So that was my moment of joy, was basking in my daughter's excitement over snow, which inevitably will melt today. But nonetheless, it was pretty while it was happening. So moment of joy. I want to talk about something a little bit different than what we've been chatting about this season. And it's something I've been reflecting on, right? Talking about reflection in December. Something I've been pondering for a while. And I wanted to share it with you all. I think the power of spirituality having a spiritual practice, being connected to your soul self, your higher self, maybe even your spirit team, your spirit guides, just having an inner awareness that we are more than just our immediate surroundings has a power to it. There is a power to knowing that while things can be really hard, while we're human, they can also be really amazing. But while things can be really hard, tapping into knowing that there is more supports us during uncertain times. Knowing that there's more helps us meet the world where it's at, helps meet ourselves where we're at, just as we both are, the world and ourselves. And I think tapping into that soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, divine source, oneness, helps us figure out how to move forward when everything around us feels overwhelming. And over the last few months, I've noticed in friends and family, in our household, with my clients, with people in my classes, there is a lot of uncertainty out there. So many conversations with people echoing this uncertainty. This, I don't want to say it's fear. I don't know. I think fear can play a role, but I think it's just not knowing the unknowing of it all, right? The fogginess. Some people are describing it as feeling stuck, trapped in a fog, idling in one place without knowing how to get back and moving forward, shifting gears again. Everyone has a little bit different angle on it, but they do agree that something needs to shift in their life, even if they're not quite sure what that shift looks like. And they agree that something needs to shift in their communities and the world, even if they're not sure what that looks like. At its heart, Reclaiming Our Spirit, the podcast, was launched and created from the intention that we find the courage to say yes to the unknown because of our connection with spirit, our direct connection with spirit, our direct connection with soul, with source, with divine. Because when we find the courage to say yes, we've had some sort of realization. Maybe it's the idea that we can't stay where we are. Maybe it's the idea that something needs to change. Even when you're not sure what that is or who you want to become. That you continue to say yes. And as an intuitive coach, I guide a lot of people through some of the most challenging times and moments in their lives. And I firsthand know the power of pivoting to meet the unexpected or to navigate something that didn't look like we thought it would. And in my space of reflection, I realized that we needed to pivot the intentions for season 2 of the podcast. Now, normally I'd be like, no, I set an intention, I'm going to see it through, because I do see through things to the very end, for better or for worse. But we started out this season exploring the intersection of business and spirituality and how those two things tie together and how they can support each other, and how when we're running a spiritual entrepreneurship, we have to understand who we are and how we're moving through the world and how our soul ties into it all in order to really thrive, I think, as independent business owners. And now more than ever, we're actually needing conversations about how to navigate what's happening in the world, because there is a lot going on. There's been a lot going on for a while, but the uncertainty of it all has spread to quite more extensively than it has, I think, in the past. And I want to have conversations that will help us move forward, both as an individual and a collective in these uncertain times. And one of the practices, and I always talk about, what are your spiritual practices that keep you afloat? What are the things that tie you and anchor you into you so that you can weather anything that comes your way in life? And one of the practices that I absolutely love for myself is my tarot deck or an oracle deck, either. But I love both. And I've always had a soft spot for tarot. I love my tarot deck. And when I'm facing the unknown, I'll often reach for it. Not to find specific answers, but just to start to understand what is going on, what is happening. And I first discovered tarot about 14 years ago. It was my gateway into the metaphysical world, officially, I suppose you should say. I was always dabbling in and out, but I'd never picked up a deck of cards until 14 years ago. I had taken a few psychic development classes, of course, and read a slew of books because I'm a learning geek, education geek. Oracle and tarot cards really captured my attention. It was right after one of the first psychic development circles I had ever been in. I was so nervous on going. My husband actually shoved me out the door. My daughter was baby, and I needed some socialization, so I didn't become feral. And my husband's like, go do something, anything. And we had just moved. And so I didn't have any friends yet. I didn't know anyone yet. And I was curious about this psychic development circle that had popped up on my feed, somehow, Facebook. And they were advertising for a class and it was happening that night. And he's like, you need to go. And I did not want to go. I was really nervous to people. I had been kind of doing that inward caving thing after you first have a baby where you're just staying at home and just keeping your child alive and like sleeping a lot. And my husband's like, nope, you need to go out and you need to people. And so I went to a psychic development class and I love cards. I loved like having people read my cards. I'd done that, but I'd never read them for myself. And in the class, the teacher had us pick a card at the end of it. And she gave us a little message, and then we were sort of to kind of interpret it for ourselves. And I had asked her, how can I keep working on my psychic skills? I've always been psychic. I've always been a medium, but never trained. And so it was very raw, and I wanted to be intentional about it. And she was like, well, here, buy a deck of oracle cards, and I'm offering this tarot class. And these were the things that helped get me started. And, come join us, come play, come have fun. And so I did. I joined my first tarot class, which meant I got to leave the house every week for class. It was pretty amazing. And I found that tarot offered, for me anyway, an effortless way to tune into the energy around me and explore the potential paths forward. And it really helped me connect with my higher self, my spirit guides, my angels, and my ancestors. Now, of course, when I first learned tarot, that was not how it was working, but this is how it sort of, sort of evolved eventually. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with tarot, I want to just take a second and explain. So tarot is a 78 card deck, and it serves as a tool for, how I use it, it serves as a tool for reflection and insight. And the deck is divided into two main parts. So you've got the major arcana, and these are the 22 cards that represent the big themes, major life journeys, transformative ideas. They're like the milestones, the turning points in life, like the big picture. And then the minor arcana are the other 56 cards, and they're divided up into suits. It doesn't matter for basic purposes what those suits are, but they reflect the smaller everyday aspects of our experience. And they're about like challenges or day-to-day steps or moments that build to the bigger picture. And tarot loves its journeys. The major arcana is a journey from fool to world. The minor arcana has journeys from ace to king. It loves a good journey. And at its core, how tarot works is with energy. So everything has energy. And as souls on a human journey, we are constantly interacting with energy around us. And tarot gives us a way to make sense of this interaction by putting a lexicon, words and images, around the energy. So each of the 78 cards carries very specific meanings and energies so that when you shuffle the deck and you draw a card after asking a question or setting an intention or however you do it, you're essentially tuning into the energy or the message that the cards hold. Okay, so that story or that message is revealed through the cards, and it's going to help you understand yourself, your situation, and the world around you. And it's a super versatile tool. And its purpose really depends on how you choose to use it. So you can use it as a tool of divination, which is traditionally how people think of it, okay? Offering insights into potential outcomes. You see that a lot in like, it's portrayed like as like a fortune telling tool where there's nothing wrong with fortune telling, but there is more to it than TVs and movies show. Okay. Tarot can be used as a method for self reflection. So just guiding your personal growth and understanding. People use it as part of rituals and spiritual practices. It's a great tool to support like psychic work, mediumship, like I talked about before, connecting to spirit, or intuitive guidance. The beauty of tarot, though, is that you choose the why. I love it. That's why I love it so much. You choose the why of why you're using it, and it adapts to your needs and intentions. And so the beautiful part also, the other thing I like is that it gives you something tangible to hold on to, a visual representation of the concept or the question you're trying to gain clarity on. Now, remember, our brain so badly wants to understand what the heck is going on, and it starts to panic when we don't know what's going on, when we're in the unknown, when we're in between worlds, when we're in uncertain times, however you want to talk about it. Our brain really, really super wants to know what's happening. And sometimes what our brain will do in order to make sense and to like feel like it's in control is it will tell stories and form beliefs around what's happening around us to help us make sense of it. Unfortunately, those stories and beliefs are not always accurate. And so some of the deductions we come to, if we're just buying into the stories and the beliefs of the things that are happening, may not be accurate. So tarot gives us something to act sort of like a mirror to show us like what is going on internally, what is going on externally. And it's just like a really beautiful tool. People are like, oh, I see it in form. And your brain's like, oh, I see it in form. That picture represents this set of words. And now I'm starting to understand what's happening. And it may not have been what you initially thought when you first drew the card. So I love it for that because I can see it click for my clients too. I use tarot in my coaching sessions, not in so much as a reading, but like we draw cards for various things: self-reflection, building self-awareness, deepening the soul connection, connecting with their spirit team, planning out things. I love tarot to use it, planning in my business and designing classes and things like that, untangling their thoughts, helping them with like journal prompts. It can be used for so many things in coaching sessions or classes. And I think that it gives people like something a little bit more obvious to anchor into when they're talking about really big themes that maybe are hard to think about or hard to navigate because it's like just a lot. And so one of the questions I've been working with for a very long time is this idea that tarot is a great tool for navigating uncertain times because it can be a conversation starter as well. So in classes or in sessions, I'll pull a single card, like one card will act like a flashlight, and it will illuminate a direction to explore. I'll connect to spirit, I'll connect to my soul, I'll pose a question, and it's like the card pulls my attention in the direction that we need to look at first, right? In the direction that's calling to be explored, something to get curious about, a door to unlock. And so what that does then, as we just talked about, is it helps us start to think about things in a different way. And when we're in uncertain times, that perspective shift can be everything, everything. And I need to put this ethics plug in. Tarot is just a tool, y'all. I know there's a lot of stories around tarot and the power it brings and all of this stuff. Everything that the tarot brings up is just simply a reflection of our inner and outer landscape. The cards are not magical or powerful on their own. Just sitting there on my desk, they're not. It's just a deck of cards. But when I pick them up and I infuse them with my intention and I start to work with them, I'm the power that fuels them, right? You are the power that fuels your deck. We set the intentions and the card just shows us what's already present so we can start to work with it. Okay. So we can start to work with it. Showing thoughts and perspectives that maybe we didn't see before. And then we get to decide how we want to respond to those. So it's not telling us to do things. It's not the only way forward, but it's a tool to spark meaningful conversations with ourselves, our soul, and the energy around us and spirit. So when I realized I wanted to have conversations about uncertain times and really explore that, I thought, what better way to do that than with tarot? And so the rest of the season, the last half of the season is going to be dictated by the tarot. I grabbed my deck, shuffled it with my intention. Let's start a conversation with you, with myself, and with spirit. I tossed the question out. I was very clear. What do we need to be talking about during these uncertain times? And I drew one card for each episode that's left in the season. And we are going to have conversations. That's what we're doing moving forward. Conversations. I think conversations are really important. Conversations mean that not only are you going to listen, but maybe you're going to hit reply on an email. Maybe you're going to put a comment on a post. I would love to hear what your thoughts are, your questions are, and your experience and your own wisdom during these uncertain times, because it takes all of us. We cannot do things alone. We cannot do things alone. We have to be connected. We have to be having these conversations. We have to navigate this time together, or we will fall apart. We will fall apart. So the very first card I chose for this episode was the Seven of Swords. Now, for those familiar with the tarot, the Seven of Swords probably isn't anyone's favorite card. It's not really inspiring optimism with you. So traditionally, it's depicted as someone sneaking away. They're glancing over their shoulder with 5 swords in their hand and 2 left behind. And the usual interpretations of this card is quite the card to start off with, let me tell you. Are betrayal, lovely, deception, fraud, being taken advantage of, trickery, all of those delicious things. It's not like the most uplifting card we could have picked. There are other cards that are a little bit more, but this one is right up there with the best of them. But at its core, the Seven of Swords, it isn't just about that kind of negativity. It's also about an awareness. This card really asks us to look closely at what's happening both around us and within us, just like we were talking about before. So it's actually the perfect card to draw for our intention of starting a conversation about uncertain times. And swords represent the thoughts and the mind. So becoming aware of your mental landscape is key when swords come up. Like, what's floating around in your head? What are you thinking? And how are those thoughts shaping the way you move through and see the world? The beauty of some of the more intense cards of the tarot, like the Seven of Swords, is that they challenge us to confront what we might otherwise avoid. And that's the other key with tarot that makes it such a powerful tool. Like, I can ignore things with the best of them, but when a certain card flips over and stares me in the face, I know it's time to get serious, to get real, and maybe do a little bit of work on my shadow side. The Seven of Swords doesn't just speak, though, to our personal struggles, our personal shadow. It also mirrors the collective challenges that we're facing right now as a society in the unknown. There is a ton of misinformation and distrust out there everywhere you look. Misinformation and distrust. And this card reflects deception and confusion, which really, let's talk about it. It's out there right now. Misinformation spread really easily. Trust in systems feels fractured. Trust in each other feels fractured. There's so much overwhelm that so many people are feeling when faced with conflicting information, whether it's on the news or social media or even in personal relationships. The Seven of Swords also talks about really feeling isolated and how we isolate ourselves during uncertainty. There's this sense of like attempting to navigate challenges alone. And like I said, it's not really going to work well if you try. You can try, but navigating challenges alone can also reflect how communities in general are feeling disconnected during global crisis, community crisis. There's a lot of societal divisions right now, a lot of cultural shifts that have left so many people feeling more isolated than ever before, even when we're surrounded by people everywhere. And despite all of that, the Seven of Swords also speaks to this idea that we have to take action. Okay, the person isn't just standing there on the card, they're moving forward. Maybe they're looking behind a lot, but they're still moving forward. And it's a reminder that clarity and progress and movement forward are possible even in the middle of chaos, even when we're not quite sure what's going on. Small, intentional actions, whether for ourselves or our communities or the world, can ripple out and make a huge difference. So if we're looking at this idea that, uncertain times really talk about like back to back ongoing struggles. And it's saying you've got to take action. You've got to find a way out. You've got to find a way to navigate that because it's not going away, y'all. We can hope and we can pray, and those things are really important, but it's not going to erase anything that's going out there. What we're seeing happening now in the world has been happening for a while. In fact, the one thing that we have to keep in mind is that however things are unfolding in this moment, actions and decisions were taken well before this moment. And that energy is unfolding. That energy is playing out in the present. And so it is more than just decisions made now. It is decisions made for decades, for centuries, for thousands of years, millennia. And they're playing out in this moment because once that is put into action, once someone makes a decision, once someone makes a choice, once a group of people make a choice, that energy has to play out. It has to play out because the choice has been made. And so in the moment of uncertain times, taking action to create the future that we want is key. Now, it can feel like, well, I don't know what the future holds. How can I take action? You are creating it. You are creating it. Yes, there are some things out of your control, 100%. But how you respond to the moment right now, that's your power. That's your power. And so rather than isolating yourselves and forgetting to ask for help or forgetting to say yes to the support people offer, we have to pay attention and we have to become more aware of what's happening around us. We cannot tune out. We cannot isolate. We have to say, yes, I want to connect with you. Yes, I need help right now. Yes, I need support right now. And the more that we become aware of our needs and what we what we want to create in the world, that noise that we all are hearing right now, that all of those distractions, all of that chaos, it starts to settle down. It doesn't go away, but it doesn't become so loud that we can't hear ourselves anymore. We begin to find ourselves in the chaos, in the hurricane, in the whirlpool, because it's very easy to get lost in the noise. But the Seven of Swords reminds us that awareness is the first step. We have to be willing to look at what's happening within us and around us, even if it's wildly uncomfortable. And I also think one of the reasons I like tarot is it really tells you how it is. It's very nuanced. And I also think that the Seven of Swords really captures the sense of exhaustion that we're all feeling. The person on this card in this moment felt like the only way forward was to steal a bunch of swords from other people who didn't know she was stealing the swords and like take off. That tells us a lot about the current state of things. I don't encourage stealing other people's swords, but they took the action that they thought was in front of them, the only action that they thought that was had to get that progress, to get moving. So if we take this as a tale, like any fairy tale that has a moral of the story, intentional action is required when we're navigating challenges. Intentional action. It's a reminder, right? A warning. Don't just do it impulsively. Be intentional about it, but still take the action. The other thing I think that comes up with the Seven of Swords is this idea that when we seek clarity, we kind of assume that clarity is just going to happen, like it's going to fall out of the sky and all of a sudden things are going to become clear and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be like, whoa, there it is, like an epiphany. And sometimes we are lucky enough to get epiphanies. I love a good epiphany, but a lot of times clarity actually comes through taking the first step. It happens when we cut through the distractions, when we really focus on what matters and we're being really honest about what we truly need. And then we take that first step, and each step gives us more clarity. Each step gives us more insight. And then we're able to take the next step and the next step and the next step. Don't be shy about making a choice. The beautiful thing is a lot of choices, some can be reversed. We can pivot. We can power of pivot. We can pivot. We can change the choice. We can adjust course when we need to. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to at least take the first step. You don't have to solve the problem to get the clarity you need. You just need to figure out what your first step is. Because in order to get where you want to go, you have to leave where you are. And to leave where you are, you have to take the first step. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. I've been in a class with my collective people. We've been actually talking a lot about navigating uncertain times in class recently. But one of the things we've really focused on is figuring out what you really, really need, claiming your desires, getting really honest with yourself, going below the surface. What do I need? What is here right now? What could support me? What will help me thrive? What do I need? And take that time to identify those core needs. And that helps you get clear on your intentions, because uncertainty feels overwhelming because we lack a sense of focus. We don't know where to focus, right? We're like, I can't see forward, right? If you've ever driven on a foggy day, like a really densely foggy day, and you can't see very far in front of you, you'll know what that feels like. It's so disorienting. You don't know where to focus. You don't know what you should be looking at because you can't see very far. So getting clear on your intentions and defining how you want to feel is really great, because sometimes we can't figure out the action that we want to take. But if we can get a clear intention on how we want to feel, that becomes our compass and guides our actions. So I want to feel more something in my life. What is the first step to feeling more, let's say, joy? I want more joy in my life. So what do I need to do to create more joy in my life? What is the first step to that? And then the next question you ask yourself when you have to make a decision is this going to bring me more joy? Is this going to create joy? Is this going to take away from joy? And we're talking about like not just happiness, but joy, that really deep soul joy. And you start to use it as a guiding light. And then that light starts to shine out and it clears a little bit more of the fog away. And now you can start to identify some of the actions that are required to move forward. Some of the places like, oh, I don't want to go in that direction. That does not look attractive. So I'm going to switch over here, right? That intention starts to push away the fog, starts to give yourself some room. You may not see all the way to the end. It's okay. You don't have to, but it starts to give you some space to figure it out. And then the next step is to blend soul and strategy. It's not just about doing, it's about aligning your actions with your inner truth, capital T, inner truth, okay? Like soul truth, universal truth, and asking yourself, how can I honor both my intuition, what my intuition, my soul is telling me, and what my human self needs, those practical needs. And when you blend soul and strategy work together, your path becomes a lot more meaningful. It becomes a lot more effective because you're listening to your intuition and you're tapping. You're like, ooh, that's going to inspire me to take into consideration what my human self needs. And I'm going to blend the two and I'm going to move forward. And also allows you to see outside the box. If we're just operating from an intuitive level or we're just operating from a human level, sometimes we stay in the box. We can't see out of it. But when we blend that soul and strategy together, the walls come down. The walls come down, and now we've got that 30,000-foot view. Now we're looking at the situation from a new angle. Now we're asking, ooh, what have we not tried before? Now we're starting to see all of the assumptions, all of the stories, all of the beliefs that we're holding on to that like might not be true and might not be so helpful. That's the magic of soul and strategy, okay? Is it helps us see those things. And then just freaking taking care of yourself. Uncertainty is so exhausting. Can't tell you how many naps I like to take when I am uncertain times. And I have been in uncertain times for years at this point. There's been a lot of uncertainty in our lives personally. And now we're seeing it collectively and globally. We've seen it for quite some time as well, but it's really building in that outward stage. So take care of all the things that need to be taken care of. And this includes, you got to take care of your body, y'all. You got to take care of your body. You've got to take care of your physical body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your mental body. You got to take it. You've got to rest when you need it and nourish yourself and make space for joy and ask yourself which bucket needs to be filled today because it's really low and it's about to crash. Self-care isn't indulgent. Self-care is the foundation for resilience. And that is what we want. We want to feel resilient. We want to feel unshakable when uncertainty is all around us. And that can feel like an uphill battle. Okay. But uncertainty can hold an incredible opportunities for growth and for transformation and for changing everything around you in the best of ways. But it starts with becoming aware of yourself and what's happening around you, setting intentions, and blending that soul and aligned action so that you can tap into that grace and that resilience. And in tarot helps you do that. Tarot helps you identify the box. It helps you identify the stories. It helps you identify the beliefs, the assumptions, the potential, the dreams, the joy. It's an amazing tool. It's as complex as you are because you are the thing that powers it. The power lies in how you use it to spark conversations with yourself and your soul. So I'd love to keep this conversation going and take it even deeper with you. And I'd love to have you join my newsletter. It's called From World to Fool, Tarot for Uncertain Times. And we're going to be having a lot more conversations about it on the podcast and diving even deeper into it in the newsletter. And over on Facebook, I'll be doing lives, sessions, videos to chat with you all, to talk a little bit more deeply about what tarot is, how it works, and how you can make it work for you. And I think together, when we start unpacking this stuff and we start sharing our experience and we start supporting one another, that's when we're going to figure out how to move forward. Because I have to say, if you're in the dark or you're in the fog, it feels so much better to have people around you who understand the path that you're journeying on. So don't try to do this alone. So until next time, take care of yourself. Tune into your tuition and remember that you're never alone. Spirit's always with you. Always with you. All right, y'all. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Reclaiming Our Spirit. To find out how I can help you reclaim your spirit, reach out to me at www.jessicapashke.com. Leave me a message, and I just may share how you reclaimed your spirit in the next episode.